This Shabbos we read the story of one of the most tragic moments in Jewish history. This is just before the Jews, having recently left Egypt, were about to enter the Promised Land. And they approach Moshe and they say, we would like to send spies who can see the land for themselves, come back and report to us that in fact everything that you've said about how beautiful and wonderful it is actually true. Moshe is hesitant, but he allows it. God clearly says, this is on you, I'm not instructing you to do it, which of course indicates that there was a high level of risk associated with the mission. The spies go, they spend 40 days and nights traversing the land, come back, and unfortunately it is a disaster. And they tell Moshe and the Jewish people that it's impossible, the people are too powerful, the land is too fortified. In fact, it's a land that swallows up its inhabitants, and there's no way that we will actually be able to conquer this land. And then the people fall to pieces and they complain, and Hashem says, well, in that case, your generation will not get to enter the land of Israel. So it's a sad piece of Jewish history. Equally, it's a lesson for us, because the Torah does not tell us things just simply to give us the historical background of our people. The Torah is a book of lessons, personal lessons, spiritual lessons that we could and should apply in our lives. So the question is, what are we supposed to learn from this particular story of the spies? There are many lessons. We'll focus on one. The concept of going into the land, into the Promised Land, was not just the establishment of a sovereign Jewish nation. The goal was to have an opportunity to serve God in a far superior way to what had been available up until then. If you have a look in the Torah, many of the mitzvahs of the Torah can only be performed in the land of Israel. Plus, the land is called the Holy Land. And the implication of that is that you actually take the physical land and you turn it into something of holiness and meaning, even though that's not its natural state. So in our lives, we do this all the time, or at least we're expected to do it all the time. We're consistently expected to exercise in a way that makes us more spiritual. So you can go about your business and you can look after your health and you can make money and interact with people. That's really not the purpose and goal of life. The purpose is to bring an element of meaning and holiness and purpose into all of those things. So in order to do that, one of the most common ways that we do this is to create a consciousness of holiness in our lives by studying Torah, by davening, and by doing mitzvahs. That's, so to speak, our entry into the Promised Land. That's what transports us from just being ordinary citizens into people who have access to holiness. So you go from your ordinary life into the space of doing a mitzvah, or the space of prayer, or the space of study, much like they were going to go from the desert, which is, so to speak, ordinary or spiritually desolate, into the Promised Land. The lesson here is, though, that unfortunately a lot of what happens to us is we just do things by rote. We get used to it, it becomes habitual. That's what we do. We get up in the morning, we put on our tefillin, we pray. Perhaps you have a particular schedule of study, so you kind of get through the pages because you've got your budget of how much you need to fulfill. Or we do a mitzvah, and we're so used to doing it that we just do it. The lesson of the spies, the positive, the upside of the spies, is that the Jewish people said, we need to understand this experience. We're not just going to do it. We're not just going to follow blindly. We would like to relate to it. We'd like it to resonate with us. We'd like to appreciate it for ourselves. And so although they went a little bit off the rails in the process, the lesson for us is valid. Before you do a mitzvah, before you pray, before you study, pause for 5 seconds and think, what am I about to do? What does it mean? How does it resonate with me? Why is this mitzvah or this prayer service or this learning personally relevant to me, rather than just going about doing it because that is what we do? And when a person adds that few seconds of focus before doing something, it becomes so much more meaningful and so much more uplifting, which actually was the original purpose of sending those spies, to improve and deepen the sense of relationship that the people would have with the land. And we should do that with every spiritual activity that we do. Have a wonderful Shabbos.